365 Hardwood Podcast, and what an honor it is to be your number one source this season for information on the defending national champion Baylor Bears. Woo, that's got a nice ring to it. I'm Jason King. My co-host is right next to me, Ashley Hodge. We are here in Waco, Texas today, where we're joined by the man, the head coach of the Baylor Bears, Scott Drew. Scott, it's good to see you again, man.
Well, it's good to see you guys. You look great. Congrats on the championship.
Thanks. Well, congrats to me. I will say, I was a little late today. Ashley was too. We were getting fitted for our championship rings. We're hoping you could slide one our way. But no, we do. We feel lucky to have scored this 4-hour interview with you. No, seriously. In all seriousness, I mean, when you win a championship, you're so excited, and then as the days and weeks roll around, you realize all the responsibilities that come along with being a national champion, from the ticker tape parades to the late night talk shows to the Chip and Joanna buying you omelets down the road at their restaurant. Well, how has your life changed since winning the title?
Well, we call those championship problems when your days are packed a little bit more, and those are a blessing. But it's great. Every opportunity you have, you get to share just what the players accomplished, just what the fans, the school has accomplished. And for a coach, the most rewarding thing, and why we're always in coaching for the most part, coaches, to see other people reach their goals and dreams, to see their excitement. And you come across other fans, you come across just people in the state, and they're so excited about, hey, congrats on the championship. Yeah. Here's my shirt. I've watched the game 10 times. I love the team. So it just it keeps you excited as you see new people and people you haven't seen since the championship.
Is there a moment or an instance that really stands out to you from the months and months of celebrations where you just kind of really almost had an out-of-body experience and just stepped back and took it all in and it kind of hit you emotionally?
No, because we've been so busy. Coaches are always looking forward, and I think the only time coaches reflect is when they retire or get fired, and then you just hope your memory's good enough to reflect, right? So I think the biggest thing for us is in recruiting, when you talk to some younger players and you ask them their dream schools. And when we first got to Baylor, no one was really naming Baylor as a dream school, and now you get top 100, top 50 players, and coach will say, "This is a kid's dream school," and or "What's your dream school?" "I've always liked Baylor the last 3 years," or whatever, and that's really exciting just to see the younger generation, how excited they are about Baylor basketball and what the players have achieved over the years, and the consistency.
Yeah. Hey, Scott, I know I asked you this at a luncheon in Dallas, but I want to ask you again. So what's an unexpected blessing that's come from the championship, and maybe an unexpected hassle as well? I'm sure with the notoriety probably comes a few thorns, so I would love to hear your response to that.
Well, probably biggest thorns would be just your days are more packed, and that it makes it harder to spend time maybe with your staff preparing for the upcoming season. So you just have to be more efficient. We're really blessed because David Cade does a tremendous job of kind of stacking interviews and not spreading them out. But that can, as you know, season's about here, and you spend 24/7 focused on the upcoming season, and every interview, every request takes you away from that. And at the same time, you do want to talk about what the team achieved and how they did. So that kind of goes hand in hand. And when I was talking to coaches over the summer, there's only been, you go through since John Wooden days, only Coach K, 91, 92, and only Billy Donovan at Ford have been able to go back to back. And it's a great opportunity to have that opportunity, and just talking to them, like, how do you continue to have success? How do you have a chance to go back to back? And one of the first things they said is make sure you stack interviews so you can spend the time prioritizing your team to give them the best chance to be successful. So we tried to do that. So that would be kind of a thorn or busyness you might add. As far as a blessing, probably just, again, the randomness during your day at a restaurant and someone comes in and so excited about the championship, wanting to get a picture and saying, I've watched the game 8 times. And by the way, I got this shirt on and it's my favorite shirt. And again, it kind of just brings back life and energy and excitement just to know what guys have done and how they've helped spread the message of joy in Baylor basketball. One other side note, probably coaches watch more NBA basketball before season starts. So watching Davion, watching Jared, watching Maceo, Mark from the Summer League, but just to see their success, you turn on the TV and the other night Davion has 18 and you see Jared guarding Davion, and that's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I promise we're going to move forward here in a minute and talk about this season. But one thing I wanted to know, you have such a good relationship with Mark Few, and even at the final, even during the NCAA tournament, everyone was sequestered at the same hotel. You guys are playing pickleball, for 3 weeks in one of the conference rooms. And then you face each other in the title game. You guys beat him handily. What's your interaction been with him been like since that game?
Well, he's been in the game a long time. He has a lot of wisdom, and he is a friend. So I tried to give him some space right after the championship, but we've been in communication. In fact, yesterday he called, and I owe him a call back. He was updating me on his 7 a.m. pickleball game, and he's been pretty effective, and he's a heck of a pickleball player. But he's someone that has been such a great ambassador for college basketball and been really involved in just how college basketball moves forward and involved with the NCAA legislation and NABC. And I've always respected coaches that have given back and tried to make the game better for when they leave, and he's definitely done that. So obviously stayed in contact and continue to. And I know we'll be playing Gonzaga at some point in the future, just because I know a lot of people want to watch that game, and it's great publicity for both programs.
Maybe on the last night of the season again. That would be nice.
We're always good for that. We're always good for that. I like how you think, Jason.
Scott, I know we want to talk about this team coming up, and we've got 5 guys that played a lot last year that are, LJ didn't play as much, but 4, guys that played quite a bit that are returning. Flo Thamba, Jonathan Chamwa-Chachwa, and of course Matt Meyer and Adam Flagler. So how have they progressed this summer? What have you seen from them from a developmental standpoint? What next steps are they going to take in their game, and what do they bring to the table as that veteran leadership?
Well, one thing that's really exciting for our staff, and I briefly touched on it, and that is normally when you win a championship, you don't have a chance to go back to back, because either you don't have the talent or you don't have the experience. And we do have a chance, not saying we're the favorites or we're going to, but we have a chance, which is really exciting. It starts with the experience we have coming back. And if you don't have experience, we've seen how hard it is to win with people that don't have experience from your culture, your playbook, offense, defense. It's just hard to win with first-year guys. With us, you lose 14 years of Baylor basketball and Baylor experience and culture. So it's really important for those 5 players that you mentioned, along with Jordan Turner and Zach Loveday and Dane Danger, to help instill that, because every program is best when it's a player-led program. And to get to a player-led program, you have to know what the culture is and what the coaches want, and you have to be an extension, because we're all working together. To start with those 5, one thing they've all done is they've all worked hard. Because they've worked hard, that allows them to get better. I think Adam Flagler is somebody that was really efficient and effective last year, and now obviously he's going to be in a bigger role. LJ is somebody that had a great summer prior to his injury, went to Athletes in Action and really was playing well and excited for his progression. And then he had a foot injury that kept him out for 8 weeks, and he's still coming back. So I think just sometimes when you recover from an injury, and they say it's kind of like an ACL, you can be back in 6 to 8 months, but a lot of times it takes several weeks and months after that to get back to the confidence and just get the rust off and get through all the scar tissue and everything else. You're healed, but you're not physically and mentally back until you've had enough time to work through that. So he'll continue to improve throughout the year. And then you look at everyday John. Brings a smile to my face because he's in that gym once in the morning, once before practice, once after practice. So his skill has gotten better. When you work that hard, you get better with your skill set. He's only played the game for 4 or 5 years, so he's going to continue to get better. Flo Thamba is the only returning starter, but he's really done a good job getting in the gym in the offseason. And again, you work on different areas and facets of your game, like John and Flo have worked on their shooting, worked on their three-point shooting, worked on other areas to improve their game. And just because you work on it, that doesn't necessarily that next year translate. But sometimes it sets it up for the following year and the year after, because what makes those two guys so elite and special is they're unbelievable ball screen guys and roll guys. And I think defensively they've both gotten better, and returning gives them another more leadership in our defensive schemes. And then Matt Meyer, somebody that was instant offense, but now playing longer minutes, balancing that with being just efficient on the rebounding offensive defensive end, and not picking and choosing his shot selection because he's in there longer. And he's been more consistent. He's competed harder. So a lot of positives with those guys. I know that's a long answer, and we spent time, but you said it's a 4-hour interview. So
we can go 3.5. You got to give me somewhere.
But I mean, all of them work hard, and I think we'll be better players. The one thing is the injury bug has probably gotten us. In the last couple of years, we haven't had long sustaining injuries. And Adams had a hand injury. Adams had a knee injury, so that's kept him out extended periods of time. LJ extended periods of time. Kendall's had a groin injury that's kept him out extended period of time. So normally this time of year, you kind of know what you're thinking of as far as starters and rotation. And as a staff, we can't tell you our best lineup yet because we haven't had everybody in practice enough to know. So what that means is probably the first couple of weeks of the season we'll be learning as everyone else is learning, because normally your returners, you look at it at the end of the game last year, a lot of times the only person that might have been in the game was one or two of the guys. And now new roles, new opportunities. We're going to be figuring things out, and might take a little longer rather than coming out the gate just blaring like we were able to last year when you had so many returning guys and everybody was healthy. So they were on point.
I wanted to ask you about Flagler specifically. Last year he's playing alongside, two of the top guards in the country, Jared Butler and Davion Mitchell. Those guys are getting their points, they're getting their shots. And can that at all, limit a player like Flagler mentally, as far as it kind of being awkward, I don't want to come in and try to steal anyone's thunder. And not that this whole team was unselfish. I get it, but I mean, still in your mind, if you're Flagler, maybe you're thinking, how do I navigate this? But now that those guys are gone and he's kind of been here now a couple of years, how do things change for him?
Well, I think it's twofold. One of Adam's biggest strengths is he's a servant leader, and what I mean by that, he's a great teammate. He wants to do what the team needs to be successful and win. And as a coach, you can entrust more power and leadership to someone like that because he's thinking for the greater good and he's not thinking about himself. Right. If Adam wants to call a set or thinks we need to run a play, normally it's for somebody else. And as a coach, you love a player that puts the team first. At the same time, Adam capable of doing more? Yes. At the same time, it will be more difficult too, because there's a difference in being on the front page of a scouting report and on the second page. And you look at being on the second page, you're coming in and you're probably playing against the other team's backups, which is easier. And then the second thing is you come in, and even though he played starter-like minutes, a lot of times the focus was on Davion or Jared or Maceo, which allows them to get, it's kind of like a wide receiver. If you're the third or fourth wide receiver people are talking about, you can have some great opportunities versus, this is that wide receiver. We're double teaming. We know where they're at all the time. Right. And it's a little harder to get the shot opportunities, maybe the selection and all of that. So there's an adjustment going from someone that everyone's keying on versus someone, last year I got some really good looks, and you're not getting those looks now.
Yep.
Scott, I want to ask you about the two transfers, Dale Bonner, who came from Division II, Fairmont State. And, I want to ask how he's doing, but also James Akinjo. And James is actually someone I've been able to spend a little bit of time with. We did a Baylor mock interview session, and I actually got him twice in my rotation. And he's a terrific kid. I'm super impressed with him. And the way you described him, I thought was perfect. I think when we first talked about him, after he had arrived, you called him a fully assembled Christmas present. Yeah. and I think that describes his skill set and the attitude that he brings. What have you seen from these two guys as far as their work ethic and, what they're going to bring to the table that Baylor fans?
Well, Dale's somebody that whenever you go from a non-Division I school to a Division I school, one of the biggest adjustments is just the physicality, and that's the blessing of being in a Power 5 program and with one of the best strength coaches, if not the best strength coach in the country, Charlie Melton. And then Dave Snyder works with Charlie hand in hand to make sure they're developing physically, and then their bodies are also making sure they're taking care of their rehab before and after practice so they can be in practice and be in the weight room to get bigger and stronger as well. So normally, just like a freshman adjusts to a different level, just like anytime you go from college to the NBA, it's a different level. With Dale, he's done a great job adjusting and getting bigger and stronger in the physicality, and he has all the natural ability and talents. And in college basketball, if you can shoot it, in any basketball level, if you can shoot it, you got a chance. So he's someone that when he's left open, we feel like it's going in, and he has the speed and quickness to get a shot for himself or his teammates. So he will continue to help us not only this year but in the future as that adaptation takes effect. And with Langston Love's season-ending injury, it probably sped up some of that process too, because Langston coming in, one of the rare freshmen that came in with a Big 12 body to begin with, and being at Mount Verde and being coached by Coach Boyle and playing the competition that he had really put him in a better position to be successful in college. But Dale will have to pick up some of that slack. And then James is somebody that he had success statistically at Georgetown, Big East Freshman of the Year. He had success at Arizona, first team All Pac-12. But what we've been most encouraged about is two things. One is work ethic. Him and John are competing every day for who's in the gym the most. And when you have a player working that hard, you put your trust and faith and confidence in him. But then the second thing is his willingness to adapt to our culture and try to improve, embrace joy. How do I make my teammates better? How can I be a better leader? Because a lot of times when you come into a program, first you have to fit in, but then second of all, once you know what the coaches want and what the team needs, being able to think about the team rather than yourself. And especially for older players, sometimes that's a little more difficult because they know they don't have as much time. And especially players that come in and thinking, I want to go to the league next year. And so often, one of the biggest misnomers out there is if you score points, you're going to get to the league. And at the end of the day, most people drafted aren't being drafted for their scoring because they got 3 max deals or 2 max deals or 1 max player on the team and 2 or 3 guys that are their featured scorers, and they need role players, people to fit in. And James, somebody that can score it, but his assist to turnover ratio is going to be so critical for us, and his ability to get other people's shots. Last with that is Davion was obviously the defensive player of the year and maybe one of the best defenders in the NBA already. But James can be really good on the ball, and I think we need his defensive intensity to help us. He needs to be a two-way guy, which he's shown a willingness and desire to do. And obviously it's a different scheme, and the more years you're in a scheme, you take a football quarterback, the second, third, and fourth year, you're better than the first year. So that's where that time and effort is so important, because a player has to speed up that process to get caught up.
Last year's team had so much talent, great players. Everyone knows that, but it could see that. But I think the people that watched you guys play every game like Ashley and I did, not just last year, but for a couple of years, really appreciated the intangibles that team had, the toughness, whether it was, Davion Mitchell taking as much pride in taking a charge as making a layup, or Mark Vital, screaming and fist pumping after a block shot, or, Jared Butler in the title game on a fast break, pulling back on a layup that might have gotten blocked and passing the Flagler for that big three. So much unselfishness, so much toughness. To me, those things would be as hard to replace, as the points and things like that. I mean, is the culture that you have here? I mean, are you confident that that's there with this team too, or does, because those guys were the leaders. I mean,
well, and that's where again, everybody in college basketball knows you want to get old, stay old, but it's hard to do that with the rules the way they are, and with players having an opportunity to leave early. I mean, you look at it, Davion could have stayed 2 more years. Jared could have stayed another year. I mean, Mark and Maceo could have come back a year, but like Davion sat out a year, Maceo sat out a year, Mark sat out a year. So I mean, you got 5-year guys. College players, but 5 years Mark in our program, 3 years Maceo, 3 years Davion, 3 years Jared. And that first year you learn, the second year you're a little better off. That third year you're an expert, and that's where it's exciting in college basketball as coaches, because our jobs always change and how you do things needs to change. And so how can we instill our culture quicker when you don't have players as long?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it'd be unfair to expect a guy like Akinjo to come in and right off the bat have the same, mentality as a Davion Mitchell who spent 4 years. But I know it can develop. One other player I wanted to ask you about specifically, because I thought he made so many strides last year, is Matt Meyer. I mean, whether it was improving his shot selection or getting better on defense, didn't you feel like by the end of the year he had made a lot of progress?
At the end of the year, I thought everyone had, but Matt definitely. I mean, we don't win that championship at West Virginia if it wasn't for Matt and his play. And Matt's somebody that a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a lot of ability, and he's continued each and every year to work harder, become more consistent, and be more coachable. And I think as a coach, some people come in and they like have that year where they have a magical jump, and then other people just each and every year continue to improve. And I think Matt's one of those guys that each and every year he'll consistently improve. I don't know if there's been a big jump, but I think there's been a consistent growth. And I think, remember the first game he played, I don't know if he was like 0 for 11, it seemed like, I mean, like, and now, I mean, he can help you in a variety of ways. And I think he knows that. I mean, he can pass it, he can rebound, he can defend. There's different ways he can impact winning. And I think him coming in, probably the first interview you asked him what's important, probably a winning wouldn't have been his answer. And now, an upperclassman, he knows the important thing is us winning, and what can he do to help us win.
Well, let's talk about the freshmen. This is an exciting freshman class. I know we're all bummed that Langston Love's going to be on the shelf for a little bit, but he's got a bright future. And then we've got 2 forwards in Kendall Brown and Jeremy Sohan that, Sohan's the one I think is going to surprise people because they know about Kendall Brown. He was in the States, but Sohan was overseas. So let's talk about those guys and what they bring to the table.
Well, first and foremost, they all room together, and outstanding young men. I mean, they really coachable and 5-star talent, but 0-star humility. I mean, they walk into a room and they're not, there's no entitlement in their game at all, and they're a joy to be around. So our staff did a great job recognizing and recruiting people that we want to be a part of our culture and our program. And for the Baylor family and friends and fans, when you get a chance to meet them, you're going to be really impressed with them as a person, not just as a basketball player. As far as potential goes, I'll start with Langston, because Langston's somebody that even though he'll spend a year out, I think he'll have a big influence on Jeremy and Kendall, because he rooms with them. He's kind of I know he's helped take those guys to church. He's breaking down film with Jeremy currently and helping him to how he can improve. And Langston's about winning and about how I can help the team. So I think he'll help those guys, and they have a lot of fun together, the three of them. The second thing is if you want to talk about Jeremy, since you mentioned him, he's somebody that his junior year was in the States at La Lumiere High School, which is one of the best prep schools. So he played great competition, played mostly the 5. So he got used to some of the physicality, some of the speed of the game. And then last year, because of COVID, stayed in Europe. His parents are from Europe. And so he has that European mentality, which is often so geared toward positionless basketball and fundamentally skilled. And I think he was able to improve his three-point shooting last year. And that was something he really didn't show his junior year in high school, not as much as he does now. So he's somebody that at 6'9", a skilled player who can play on the perimeter, he can play inside, and somebody that continues to adjust to the physicality and just the intensity of college basketball. And these freshmen are going to have it tougher than any other freshman from the standpoint. I mean, you have so many players you're going to play against that are super seniors. I mean, look at Kansas. They got 5 super seniors alone. That means 4 guys that played 4 years of college basketball. They're in their 5th year. And then, I mean, you're not normally playing against 5th-year guys. You might have 1 or 2 5th-year guys on a team or in a conference that are impact guys, let alone one team. So freshmen, it's going to be tough this year, 18 versus 23-year-olds. But Jeremy's someone that I think will continue to improve throughout the year. And he's someone that NBA scouts definitely see the potential in. Our goal is to bring out the production. And the good thing is he's someone that can produce at an early age because of that fundamental background. And then you talked about Kendall. And Jeremy's someone also his athleticism shouldn't be something that, I mean, he'll have some dunks and plays that people are going to go, really? And that's exciting. But Kendall's probably one of those guys every week that's got a chance to be on SportsCenter. And the pop he has, it reminds me similar when we played Gonzaga, lost to them in the round of 32, and they had a player, Brandon Clark, that was so quick on his second bounce. They're like, our players came to the timeout. He's different, coach. A little harder to box him out. So, but Kendall is just an effortless athlete. I mean, he moves so graceful. At the same time, he'll continue to improve his skill set, his shooting, but because of his ability to be fundamentally and play to his strengths, sometimes players don't know their roles or their strengths. Because he does and he plays to them. I mean, he's an elite athlete. He can become an elite defender. He's a tremendous rebounder, but he can really pass and facilitate and take high percentage shots and be effective. It allows a coach to put him out there and know and have confidence he's going to play to his strengths.
Can you share some of the vertical numbers? Like, is he a 42-inch guy? Do you know off the top of your head? Or
and you know what? I don't know exactly. Charlie Wood, I would think he's more 37, 38, but because of his length, sometimes people that are long look like their vertical is higher, and then some people don't have a wingspan, and all of a sudden their vertical is 42, but you really don't know it, you know. Right. So I think the speed of his jump is more important than the height of his jump. And I mean, but again, elite athlete, someone similar, also maybe a Scottie Pippen type player.
Yeah. You know, he's one of the highest profile guys you've signed in maybe a decade, if I'm not mistaken, since Isaiah Austin, just in terms of rankings and stuff like that. Are there certain challenges that go along with coaching a guy that comes in really, ballyhooed like that? I mean, I know you've had experience with Isaiah and Perry Jones and Quincy Miller and stuff like that. What challenges can that present, if any, and how is Kendall kind of adapting?
Well, I think Kendall's similar to Perry Jones as a personality. And what I mean is laid back, someone that just wants to fit in a room, doesn't want to come in and stand out in a room, and somebody that if anything, is passive at times or defers to teammates. And Perry was a great teammate. Kendall's a great teammate, but sometimes both those guys needed, like, Perry scored more, averaged more points his freshman year at Baylor than he did his senior year in high school.
Right.
He actually had more rebounds, and this is Big 12 stats.
Wow.
So he had a great high school team, but he's one of those guys that would just defer, and you would have to make sure you brought out that run more sets to him or brought out. And Kendall is not someone that, I mean, Perry, we needed him to score more, but I think Kendall is somebody that defensively can really, I mean, you lose 3 top 15 defensive players of the year and 2 top 5. Yeah. And Kendall's somebody that has the ability to be a top 5, a top 15 defender, and just getting him used to exert that energy and effort and know the importance of that. And at the same time, somebody that, because of his groin injury, hadn't probably had the amount of practice time, scrimmage time that you would obviously hope for a freshman going into a year. So I think his growth in the first month will be substantial.
As you assess the team, I know you mentioned it already, kind of set planted the seeds for this, but it sounds like we may be a team that's way more dangerous in January, February, because of guys that have been injured, and then just younger guys that are going to be a big part of what we're trying to do. But where are we as far as, like, are we at the head of the game in any areas that you thought we might not be as proficient in right now? And where are we lacking? Like, where the Bears need to really improve over the next month or two?
Well, and that's a great question. But to start with, I think one thing that's tough is we'll be a much better team in January, February, but because of the competition, you might not always see it either. I mean, the Big 12 analytically has been the best conference since 2014. And you look at this year, I mean, you got 3 teams in the top 12, top 10 in the nation, and you got a couple teams right there that by this time could be top 15 team. They kind of talk about the SEC in football a lot. I mean, the Big 12 in basketball, you're playing everybody twice. You guys know how hard it is to win. I mean, let's just look at who they picked toward the bottom. I mean, Iowa State, Kansas State. I mean, how tough is it now that fans are back, a packed Iowa State gym, a packed Kansas State arena, Coach Weber with most of his guys back. How much did they improve from the beginning of the year to the end of the year when we played them? And now you return a lot. So just because we're better, it might not necessarily translate in always wins and losses, but we will be a better team, which will lead into March. And that's where you look at we didn't win the Big 12 in 2010, and we didn't win the Big 12 in 2012. And yet both of those years, I thought 2010 we could have won a national championship. In 2012, we lost to Kentucky, who was the best team. Kansas played Kentucky in the national championship, and we beat Kansas in the Big 12 tournament. We could have been the second best that year. I mean, 2017, we started out 17-0. You lose to South Carolina, goes to the Final Four. So my point is, I don't know where the goal is to win the conference. The goal is to win the last game. But sometimes your record, I mean, we've been so blessed the last 2 years, winning 23 in a row, and then last year with the till that COVID pause, being undefeated. I mean, as coaches, what a blessing to go to bed every night with a win.
No kidding. How are your just everyone loves those guys. We've mentioned them a ton of times already. How closely are you keeping in contact with Jared and Davion and Maceo and even Mark playing football now? I mean, how are they getting along?
Well, what's great is we've been able to have them back thanks to what you guys did with the Sikkim 365. And then at the same time, those guys, it's an adjustment, them being away. It's a different culture, different environment. Professional basketball is completely different than college basketball. I mean, it's a business there, and in college, it's a family, it's a team. So just to answer the question, weekly we're in touch with them, and just how much they want to be in touch with us, and how the team's doing is so neat and so cool as well, and how much they care and are invested in Baylor basketball and what program they've helped build. Not to forget your question, you said what areas are we ahead in? I actually thought Defensively, we're further along than where I thought we would be. Offensively, I think we're probably a little bit behind because defense is more rule-based, offense is more chemistry-based, and because of the injuries, it's been hard to LJ was out. When LJ came back, Adam goes out. Kendall's been out. So, like, we haven't – you gotta have people just so right now in practice, a lot of times we have two guards on one team and a guard and a walk-on another team, which makes it even hard to and obviously Langston injury takes away another guard. So you went from hopefully having 5 guards in practice to only having 3. And again, to get better, you have to have that iron sharpens iron. And we've been so successful because of our bench and our depth and everyone's ability and willingness to compete each and every day. And no offense to your walk-ons, but I mean, having players that like a Langston Love in practice, even though let's say Langston plays a lot or doesn't play a lot, and we practice a lot more than we play games. So that practice time is so critical, and especially for the offensive continuity and consistency.
Yeah. Any tweaks to what you do defensively? Your strategy with some of the length you have now, or do you just kind of stick with what you've been doing?
Yeah, we're going to go to zone this year. But I think you're always going to adapt, pick up pressure, who, where, based on what their capabilities, what their strengths are. Maybe more switching, less switching. So again, as a staff, I think we've been really good when we know who we're playing and adjusting and fine-tuning for that. Mm-hmm. It's a little more difficult going into a game not knowing necessarily who, when, where. I mean, you have thoughts, but if you haven't seen it in practice, and again, normally you practice a lot more than you play. So, like, you go into a game and someone misses a couple shots and it doesn't faze you because, in practice he makes them. But if you go into a game and you haven't seen him shoot before and now he shoots, you don't know, Yeah. So, and everybody reacts different in games and practice, and that's why a lot of times fans see things that we see for the first time, but it's really hard when no one's seen anything.
Yeah, along those lines, wingspan-wise, I mean, we have a really long team this year. Mm-hmm. I think there's 6 or 7 guys over 7-foot wingspan. Jordan Turner's maybe one that's under the radar there that's got a long wingspan. So when you play that no middle defense, I mean, is there some adjustments you can make with guys that move their feet really well that have long wingspans, maybe Jeremy and Kendall? And to trap more. I mean, is that the evolution of how it might look different this year than last year?
Well, I think if you look at it, like Mark Vital's crawling up under a guy more, Davion's crawling up under a guy more, where maybe the guys with more wingspan are taking a step back and getting more deflections. Maybe more balls get tipped. It's harder to see passing lanes. But probably the point of pickup maybe is not as high without a Davion out there who can basically at half court shut down an offense and make it go side to side. James is very good. Dale, LJ, Adam's been out and is capable. But again, Davion was the best college defender in the country. So that gets adjusted. The freshmen with more length, again, they don't have a Mark Vital tenacity, quickness that's going to climb up and really back someone up. But I think the passing lanes will be a lot more guarded and look a lot more combobulated. You might have more gap defense than out pressuring in the passing lanes.
Remember those days when people used to say Baylor didn't play anyone in the preseason or the non-conference and their schedule was so bad? I mean, I'm excited about this schedule like it has. It's been great the past 5 or 6 years. But you're going to the Bahamas. I mean, are you a water slide guy? Are we going to see you, clips, coming back from David K? Like, of you going down.
We're not all blessed to have your body, Jason.
Oh,
so, I mean, I know you'll be up there. We'll have plenty of pictures.
I was good until Halloween, and my kid brought home a 2-pound pellet case of Snickers bars. But
they do have some great slides. I think the rule number one for us is no one gets injured.
Right.
With that, we'll get down there early enough where we can enjoy that, but at the same time, it is a business trip, so we'll lock in, focus, and battle for Atlantis. Most people say that Maui Invitational, the 2 best tournaments every year.
Yeah, I've been. I know you guys. I did not go the year you went, but I went. I think the first year they had it, I loved it. I thought it was a great experience. I remember at halftime. Usually they have random shows all across the country. There they had SEALs come out onto the court and they were chugging Dr. Peppers and everything. I thought it was pretty cool. It was a really well-run event and just a great facility. I'm excited.
Well, plus they have that casino there where you'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, I hope so. Hey, you just cover that spread. We'll be good. No, I don't think you can bet on games that are being played there.
Yeah.
Just like in Vegas, I don't think you can bet on UNLV.
Right.
Uh-huh.
There, I don't think you can. So anyway,
Yeah.
not that I would ever do that anyway.
But the great thing is you have a venue that and like Maui's a little tougher because when other teams are playing, you might not get a seat. Where there, it's a great venue where you can go to multiple games, see great teams. I mean, you could have 5-6 teams in the NCAA tournament there that are there participating in that venue. It's in a ballroom, which is different. But I tell you what, we won it the last time. Remember, we beat VCU, Michigan State, Louisville, and what's one of the best comebacks ever. But the victory celebration they have with what they bring onto the court, the band, the music, amazing.
It's cool.
Amazing. Yeah. So hopefully we're blessed to have an opportunity to celebrate like that. But you look at the non-conference, like you said, you have Stanford at home, you have Battle for Atlantis, you have Villanova at home, you have Oregon on the road, you have Alabama on the road, and then obviously you have the Big 12 gauntlet, and then you have the other games that, as we know, parity in college basketball is what makes it so hard each and every night when you see, I know scrimmages don't mean anything, but like, who is it? Pepperdine loses by 20 plus to a Division II team. And I mean, like, coaches aren't fazed by any of that because the competition, the parity, I mean, college basketball, that's what makes it. And that's why you have non-Division I players coming up to Division I, like Freddie Gillespie, who 1 minute he's scoring 4 points the whole year at Carleton. The next thing he's playing with the Raptors. And you're like, how does that happen? And again, that's parity. And there's so many great players out there nowadays. And sometimes we see someone ranked 50 and we think there's a huge difference between him and 250. And really where they're ranked doesn't matter where they're going to go. And 250 becomes 50 and 50 becomes 350. It's just who's going to work, improve, what culture, environment benefits them. And so many people, and you see this, you were talking about your kids, like 11 and 12-year-olds. Sometimes at age 14, there's a 6'2" grown man out there and he's a monster. But you know what? He's done growing. And when it's all said and done, the kids that are 5'8" right now, they're going to be 6'5", and they're the monsters, so.
I remember one time Tim Miles, former Nebraska coach, where he's at San Jose State now, but he said when he was recruiting, he said if he saw a 16-year-old with tons of hair on his legs, he goes, he's dead to me. He's not gonna, he goes, he's not going to get any bigger. He's fully grown. He's not going to get any older. He was hilarious. But
this question may be difficult to answer on the spot, but we know that the Big 12 coaches really well, and you scout each other, and there's a couple new faces, but for the most part, it's the same. Like Chris Beard went from Texas Tech to Texas, and then obviously Mark Adams took over that job. But as far as coaches around the country, maybe someone that, as you started to break down film, you're like, ooh, this is going to be a more challenging game than I thought. Maybe someone that's under the radar, or is there anyone that comes to mind that as you look at the film, you go, this guy knows what he's doing?
Well, right now, with the new guys, we haven't seen film based on their personnel because most of us play scrimmages, and if it's an exhibition game, you're probably playing everybody. And so once season starts on the 9th, then we'll start seeing people see what they do. But I mean, again, that's why I've heard this from when Coach Huggins came in, when Jamie Dixon came in. I mean, it's such a great coaches league. When I first got here, you had Eddie Sutton, you had Bob Knight, you had Rick Barnes, you had Kelvin Sampson. I mean, you had so many great coaches to learn from, and hopefully our staff has improved from learning from everyone that's come in is really good. Otherwise, they don't come to the Big 12.
Right.
And if they're in the Big 12, they bring something to the table, and that's where I mean, you're not the best conference in the country if you only got 3 good coaches and 3 good programs. And it's top to bottom. So I look at it, I mean, I can go through every one of the programs and tell you why they could have a great year, why they could be in the tournament, why they could win games. And that's, again, what's made the league the best league, top to bottom. There are no off nights. There are no 2 wins. I mean, you look at TJ, and the last time he was in the league with Fred, Iowa State was a monster, you know.
Yeah.
You look at Porter. I mean, he's gone to the Final Four at Loyola. What he's done there, in Oklahoma's always got talent and always is good. Chris, you talked about. I mean, he's been successful everywhere he's been. He's going to be successful at Texas. And then Mark Adams with the defense that and you know, like when we put in our zone defense, I remember when we first used it in the Big 12, and then at one point like 6 teams had showed it during the year. And when you scout against something and go against something, everybody has it. And then sometimes you just choose to use it. And like, I mean, the no middle is probably the most popular defense because of what Mark Adams and Texas Tech have done, and them going to the Final Four. And again, basketball always evolves. When you see something that works, from the spread offense to shooting a lot of threes to positionless basketball, it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And if you don't evolve or change, you get left behind.
You said spread offense. I thought football for a bit.
Yeah.
That too. I mean,
that was my football. The mighty orphans throwing them the ball. I don't know if you've seen the show.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we're going to have to cut it 2 hours short. I mean, if they go out and struggle at their first game, I'm going to feel guilty like it was.
Right.
Did we do as good of a job interviewing you as Talia Goodman though? I mean, because she's already, catapulted past her dad's.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are, but the second order. But,
and I think Jeff would be okay with that, because that's the only person you could say that to. But I can tell you what I love is the interviews we've done. Just as you know, Jason. Coaches, like officials, you see them year in and year out. Media, we see them year out, and you develop some friendships and and relationships, and just to see how the media has people that you know, love, and trust, to see their excitement for your success too, because they covered you when you weren't very good and you were building, and I think they recognize just what our players have helped build and accomplish, and they're appreciative of that because they know how hard it is in sports, and that's really neat too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the media, no matter what you're covering, everyone loves a great story, right. And not only that, there's so much negativity and so many people doing it the wrong way that when someone comes along and builds something the right way, it's really refreshing and uplifting to cover. So I think that's why a lot of people were really on the Baylor bandwagon and wanting to see you guys win it all. Now, there was also the people that have, for whatever reason, like to criticize you, and they're negative no matter what. But they're never going to change. So it was just a really fun ride, as a media member to watch. And now, everyone says it's as hard as it is to get to the top, it's even harder to stay at the top. So, but we did this interview to start the season last year. Things worked out well, so hopefully this is a good luck charm, and it'll be.
And we believe in routines. We believe in routine, and that's where there's so much pride in the Big 12. I mean, you look at the one knock on the Big 12 is we don't have enough teams make the Final Four. And now you look at it in recent history, you've had Oklahoma, you've had Texas Tech, you've had us, you've had Kansas. So, I mean, it's like each and every year we're having a Big 12 team in the Final Four, which that was the one knock before. But you look at the parity, again, Power 5 schools, only us and Kansas have won 18 or more since 2008.
Well, the other knock was that not only were they lacking Final Four teams, but the Big 12 hadn't had anyone win it. And so for you guys to do it, and just the whole anecdote or not anecdote, but fact about you being the first Texas team to win it since, what was it,
1966,
I mean,
Glory Road.
that's
They did a
just
movie on
phenomenal.
that.
Yeah, I know. let's do one on you guys.
Well,
too. That'd be great.
speaking, we do got.
Can we get a small part in that movie if possible? Just to,
Well, who's going to play Jason and Ashley? That's what I want.
Jason and Ashley, just let me be the interview guy and ask one quick question.
We do want to put a plug in for Ode to Joy. The star of Ode
Yes.
to Joy is right here. But we've done a documentary thanks to Chris Scott, Lisa Adams, and this is starting to come to fruition here. It's going to be out in the next couple months. So if you're a Baylor fan, you'll want to make sure you catch one of the premieres or wait until it comes on streaming.
Yeah.
But a basketball fan in general, it's going to be a great story. It's shaping up really well. So thank you for all of your participation.
Well,
in that.
thankful for your group doing this because it's a great way to honor what the past players have achieved and what this current team did. And again, it's a we. We all know that. You know how important the fans are each and every night until officials become robots. They're humans. They're affected by the crowd. Players are affected. Coaches are affected. So again, it's everybody's championship.
Yeah. Well, Scott, thank you for the time, and for everyone watching. We'll be back every week throughout the season with interviews with current players, former players, people that cover the team, all sorts of good insiders. So for now, I'm Jason King with Ashley Hodge for the Field of 68 Network and the Sikkim 360.